everyone, welcome to Risky Business. I'm Jamie Schmitz in the VGM Insurance Claims Department. Today we're going to talk about what's in your file and how that could impact you if a claim occurs. Let's use the example of a customer who comes in to rent a knee rollator. You have paperwork that you normally fill out for that, but this is going to be a cash transaction, so you only fill out the bare minimum. The customer leaves with the rollator, but a couple days later they bring it back. They say they had a couple of issues with the brakes not working quite right and they'd like to exchange it. Not a problem. You get them another rollator, note it on the document, and send the customer on their way. A couple months later, the knee rollator is replaced, put back into rotation, everyone's happy. But then like 6 months later, you get an attorney letter. And the attorney letter says that the customer suffered an injury and they want $50,000 to settle a claim. You immediately call your insurance agent and send them the letter. They say, "We've got you, we'll get you in touch with our claims team." So the claim team jumps in and says, "We need a copy of your records." Not a problem. You send them the records that you have. And then they reach out and say, "We've got a few additional questions." The first is, they don't see any reference to which rollator was rented which time, meaning there's no serial numbers on the documentation or the rollators aren't individually numbered, and they're wondering if you have anything like that. They're also wondering if you have any maintenance records for the equipment, anything to show that when it's returned, it's cleaned, it's checked out before it's put back on the floor. And then they wonder, did you guys give the customer any direction on how to use the equipment? Because they're not seeing that in the papers either. And last but not least, they see that the customer rented 2 rollators and they're wondering, why was the first one returned? They don't see any notes about that. All of these questions might seem like little things, but in the claims world, if it's not in the documentation, it never happens. So when the customer returned the rollator and said there were issues with the brakes, and that wasn't noted on the file, it never happens. When there's no information regarding which rollator was rented, or if maintenance records exist, that never happens. Now there are definitely ways to prevent this and help mitigate the risk for your company. First, make sure your documentation is complete. Make sure that all forms that you have are filled out completely and signed by the customer. Second, ask questions. If a customer returns a piece of equipment and they said they had issues with it, dig a little bit deeper. Find out what the issues were, make sure there were no injuries, and then note that in your documentation. And third, this one's kind of silly, but if your documentation is handwritten, make sure it's legible. It's always easy to read 2 minutes after you write it, but 6 months down the road, it can be a little bit more tricky. Thanks for watching, and tune in again for more risky business tips. And as always, feel free to contact our team anytime.